Jeff Green here. Nice to see you back again. This is part 2 of the real estate crash video that I started a couple of days ago. And this is a complicated process, but what I want to focus on here is what you're really hearing when you listen to the media about foreclosures and the world's coming apart sort of thing. So what I did today, I ginned up a little slide that you're seeing here on the actual process that the bank or lender goes through to foreclose on a loan. Now, Arizona is what's known as a deed of trust state. And there are many others, especially the older states like on the East Coast and the mid part of the country that still has a judicial process, which takes longer, but the process is very similar to what you're seeing on this slide. So let's follow this through, and then we'll talk about a little bit about what's actually happening across the country and here locally in Arizona. So this flow chart sort of moves from top left to bottom right. So this is the happy homeowner that's current on payments. In rental, you can be current on payments and they can kick you out within 30 days, but a mortgage foreclosure process takes a little bit longer. So you're current on payments, you're making your mortgage payments on time, and then some disaster happens. Everybody's predicting that we're going to go into a giant recession, everyone's going to lose their job, the world's going to come to an end. It remains to be seen whether that's going to happen, but let's just suppose some disaster happens. Maybe one income in a household goes away and you just can't make your payment. So you follow these green arrows, now you start making late payments, or worst of all, no payments at all. And the lender or the bank gets a little upset. Now I'm going to come back to these yellow boxes in a minute, but let's just follow through the process here for a minute. So as soon as you don't make your payment, usually most banks within like 5 or 10 days, they're on the phone, they're calling you, hey, are you still alive? Can you send us some money? That sort of thing. Or they'll send you a letter, and 30 days go by and things start to get a little hairier. You'll find yourself in this bank workout process. Now, all banks and lenders work a little bit differently. Some are a little bit more urgent than others, some are friendly, some are not very friendly at all. But you go through this internal bank workout process. Typically, 30 to 90 days of this, and then they just get fed up working with borrowers. And they sort of follow this blue line back to the formal, hey, you don't pay us today, we're going to foreclose on your home. We're going to take it from you, kick you out, and all sorts of bad stuff happens. And oh, by the way, we're not going to be very friendly. This is the formal notice that we're going to follow whatever legal procedures possible in our state to get our money back. This is when they start getting rather testy, let's put it like that. This might take 45 days, 60, 90 days. It just depends on the lender and the state that you happen to live in. Once they've told you they're going to do it, guess what they do? They actually do it. They're going to go file the legal paperwork necessary. They'll establish a foreclosure date. Now, in a deed of trust state, which Arizona is in, when you buy a home, you sign a deed of trust to a third-party trustee, and they have the authority to sell your home and repay the lender the money that they can get out of it. In a judicial state, you have to go through a formal judicial process, plead your case in front of a judge, and that sort of thing. That takes a little bit longer. But when we had the big meltdown in 2008, they were getting pretty good at filing these things, even though lenders were losing a lot of money. So we get to this box, and you know when your property is going to get sold. You're going to have to move out, or the sheriff will show up and move you out. That's not a good deal. So the last box here is the property sold, generally on the courthouse steps, and all the proceeds go back to the bank. Plus legal fees, all sorts of document fees, filing fees, and that sort of stuff. If there's enough money to pay all those fees, then you might get some. If you've got enough equity, that bank might send you some. So throughout this whole process, depending on the state that you're in, might be 6 months, 9 months, a year. I've seen some of these go more than a year, because in here you can do things like file bankruptcy and reset the dates. But let's just suppose that this is the normal process. Now, let's look at when the media gets involved. So the media focuses here on these last 2 boxes in most cases. I would say almost all, but there are exceptions. And the reason for that is this is when the formal documents are filed, so media can go and, these are all public notices. You can go down to the courthouse and look these up and get notices. So the media typically focuses here. That's an obvious thing for them to do. Now, I look at this one here. When people start making late payments or no payments on that mortgage, the banks and most lenders have to report to the Federal Reserve how their loan status is going, because that's the way we do it in this country. You have to tell the federal government just about everything. So they do this about every 3 months, I believe. I don't think it's as frequently as a month, but they will forward this information to the government. And if you know where to look, the government can find it. Now, I'm going to show you exactly where to look to find this stuff, so you'll know what's going on as well as me. So this is the earliest indication that things are deteriorating. We call that the mortgage delinquency rate. And quite clearly, if more homeowners have gone through this sort of disaster and making loan payments, making late payments or no payments, this process generally works its way through until people lose their homes. So let me close this slide for just a second here, and I'm going to show you where I go to get this information. Now, this is publicly available information. I happen to get this slide off the Federal Reserve economic data. It comes out of the St. Louis Fed, and you can go and get this. There's the link right there. You can go type this link in or copy it or whatever you want to do and get this same chart. This is the same chart I look at. I look at it every darn month and usually every week, but it doesn't change. See, this is by quarters usually. So there's Q3 of 2022. Clearly, we don't have Q1 of 2023 because it's not the end of March or April 2023. So once a quarter, this gets reported up. Now, this goes all the way back to 1992. There's a recession in here, and here's the big, the big disaster. Now, this is showing delinquency rate on single-family residential mortgages. Okay, all commercial banks. Private lenders usually don't report, but all commercial banks is good enough for our purposes. So you can see from 1992, we had a sort of a trending down, everything was good. And then 2008, all hell broke loose. Mortgages were not being paid. We had a delinquency rate up to like, what is that, about almost 12%. That's a lot. And then the foreclosure process took over and homes were sold to investors. Investors got pretty good deals here. And the delinquency rate has decreased sort of ever since. This little mark in here was the COVID meltdown. But the reason that didn't get extremely bad was because of the prevention, the forbearance process put into place by the federal government. Well, nice people they were. So let's sort of shorten this up a little bit, and we'll take a look at, we'll go to 2016. Again, this is the COVID dilemma. And anything, so let me sort of show you where I get this 2.5. So anything below about, 2.5%, 3% is well below what's considered normal. So let me open that chart up again. Let's go to 2016. So you can see that it's been below that level, gosh, since 2015 at least. Let's go back a little bit more. So, around this period here was when things started to get a little bit more normal. Now, look at what the delinquency rate has done in the last couple of years. It's just continued to go down, right? There's been pretty much no increase here since the pandemic when forbearance was in place. This is an extremely low delinquency rate. I think part of that is because if you get into the financial difficulty, you have enough equity built up in your house over the last 2 or 3 or 4 years that you can sell your house fairly easily, still make a profit, and leave before the foreclosure begins. So if you get in trouble, sell your house, move on, go rent a place, whatever, things will get better. So that is that first box. Let me bring this back over here. What we were just talking about is this box right here. And some of this, this is a private matter, so that won't show up in the numbers. Okay, let's take a look at the, oh, by the way, this is countrywide. This is across the United States averages. I don't have numbers for delinquency rates in Arizona alone. I just couldn't separate them out. I might be able to, but as long as I know what the country's doing, I'm okay with that. Okay, let's look at the Crowdfoot report, which is what I watch, which is notices of trustee sale per month. Now let's go back to this chart. This is the formal, we're gonna foreclose notice and the legal paperwork. See what I mean? The media focuses here because that's when it starts to be public information. All this stuff back up in here is private, okay? Now, move this out of the way again. I have a lot of years turned on. Let me do them all, okay? And then you can see again, this is the 2008, 9, 10 meltdown here when we had notices of trustee sale per month. Now, the delinquency rate, remember, was starting to increase back in here sometime. Now, since then, we've come down to an extremely low notices of trustee sale per month. Let me just put on the last couple of years here, and I think you'll see what I'm talking about. If my computer will bring them up. Okay, so this in here was the forbearance from the COVID activities. That's why you saw 0 notices of trustee sale by month. There were people that were delinquent on mortgages that weren't reported because of the forbearance. So this is sort of a twilight zone in here. We really don't know exactly who was late and who wasn't. But nevertheless, look at the notices of trustee sales so far in Q1 2023. Now, we don't have a full quarter here. We've got January. January was up. Guess what? It was up over Q1 of last year, of January 22. Right? So what does the media say? Oh my God, trustee sales have gone up by what? 50% from here to here. That's what they focus on. In the grand scheme of things, is that a huge problem? Well, you can see for yourself. Anybody with any sort of common sense and eyesight can see that it's an extremely low trustee sale. It's just so low in the Arizona, Phoenix metro area that it's really not even worth a news article. Now, let's look at the Cromford report, which is trust deeds by month. Now, as I mentioned in Arizona, we're a trust deed state. So this is this last box here. This is a property sold to recoup loan losses on the courthouse steps or in the attorney trustee's office. It doesn't really matter, but this is what is called a trustee sale. That's the final box. Thank you for playing. Please leave. Please put in another 25 cents or whatever the thing. This is the end of the line for homeowners. Homeowners are closed out of their house. It's sold to another investor or person. That's the end of the line right there. Now, that's what this chart says. This is trust deeds per month. Now, look at how low we are here. In January, 26 notices and sold to third party. You can see that right there. I mean, I'm not lying. This is public information. In February, 3. Does that sound like a bad deal to you? It doesn't to me, because look where we were. I'll bring us back. Look where we were. We were in the 5,000s in the dilemma years, and it's been low and going lower ever since. Now, do I think this will continue? Frankly, until I see that first delinquency rate start to increase, yeah, I think it will continue. Unless we have a mass disaster, the economy just goes to hell in a handbasket. I don't see this happening because people have so much equity built into their property that they can sell it, get out clean, and still probably take some money with them. So that's where I think we are. I think these numbers stand for themselves. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to give me a call. Please make sure you subscribe and like these. If you subscribe, you'll get notices of new videos as they come up. And I'm hoping that these are very useful to you. And stay tuned for next week when I'm going to do a longer market analysis in the Arizona real estate situation. And we'll do, let's see, it's February, so we'll do most of February and January. So hope that helps. And hope you have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.